And so we talked about the party switch, how it started slow, grew under FDR and Truman, and cracked wide open under LBJ, and got cemented by Nixon. But now it's time to talk about what came next. Not the switch itself, but the cover-up, the rebranding, the strategic, well-funded campaign to reshape the GOP into the party of racial grievances while pretending it was still the party of Lincoln. This is the part that too many textbooks skip over, and that right-wing influencers straight up lie about. Because after 1968, the Republican Party didn't just drift toward racism. They embraced it, they recruited it, and then they rebranded it. Alright, so let's start. Let's start with the obvious. After the Civil Rights Act passed in 1964 and the Voting Rights Act in 1965, the Democratic Party lost the South. LBJ saw it coming. And where did those Southern segregationists go? Right into the arms of the Republican Party. Again, let's name the names. Strom Thurmond, former Dixiecrat, lifelong segregationalist, literally ran for president in 1948 because he hated civil rights. He switched to the GOP in 1964. Jesse Helms, notorious North Carolina senator who built his career in opposing civil rights, blocking MLK Day and using race baiting in every election. He was a Democrat until he wasn't. Republican from 1970 onward. Then we have Trent Lott, John Tower, Phil Gramm. More southern converts to the GOP in the 70s and 80s, all with long records of opposing civil rights legislations. And the Republican Party opened the door, and they didn't just open it, they held it wide open and said, "Come on in, we'll give you a new home, no need to change your views." And here's the thing, they couldn't use the old words anymore. No more N-word, no more segregation signs. By the 70s, that kind of open racism was socially unacceptable in mainstream politics. So they swapped the language. Out went white supremacy, in came welfare queens. Out went segregation, in came busing, neighborhood schools, and states' rights. Out went lynching mobs, and in came law and order. This is where Lee Atwater comes back in, Reagan and Bush's guy, the architect of modern Republican, because he's that important. And that's not a mistake. That's intentional policy by design. Then let's go to Reagan and the Southern dog whistle. Now let's talk about Reagan. He is famous in this podcast. Not for the right reasons. Reagan wasn't just another Republican. He was a full-on myth maker. He's treated like a saint by today's conservatives. Even my dad believed he was the greatest president ever. The small government cowboy, the morning in America guy. But the truth, Reagan was the king of coded racism. Let's start with where he launched his 1980 campaign. Philadelphia, Mississippi. Now, if you know what that means, it's just, or what that means, it was the location of the where James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schroeder, three civil rights workers, were murdered by the Klan in 1964. They were shot, lynched, and buried in a dam. Their bodies were discovered 44 days later. And Reagan went there to that same town to give the first big campaign speech. And what did he talk about? Not civil rights, not healing, not justice. Oh no, buddy, no. He said this. I believe in states' rights. States' rights, always, every time, the same phrase used by every segregationist governor, senator, and sheriff to justify Jim Crow and lynching. He knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't talking to black voters. He was signaling to white Southerners, "Don't worry, guys, I'm your guy." That was the message. Let's go even deeper. Reagan popularized the myth of the welfare queen. If you don't know, I made an episode. Apparently it's the favorite of everybody. It was a lazy, manipulative woman abusing government handouts and buying luxury items. He never said she was black, but every story, every image, every speech, you knew what he meant. There's no statistical basis for this stereotype. None. Most welfare recipients at that time, and still to this day, are white. But the goal was never truth. It was never about the truth. It was resentment. He wanted white middle-class voters to feel like they were the victims of the system rigged for others. And this laid the foundation for what came next. The war on drugs, the war on crime, the explosion of mass incarceration. Republicans pushed mandatory minimums, harsh sentencing, 3-strike laws. They militarized police departments. They flooded black neighborhoods with surveillance while gutting investment in jobs, schools, and housing. And it fucking worked. Politically, they sold racism as safety, inequality as tough love, and neglect as freedom. Now, we can skip George H.W. Bush, and the Willie Horton ad, one of the most infamous political smear campaigns in history. Now, this is George Bush Sr., if you didn't know. It was 1988. Bush was running against Michael Dukakis, and Lee Atwater again decided to make one man the face of Democratic weakness. Willie Horton was a black man who, while on a weekend furlough from Massachusetts prison, committed assault and rape. Atwater and Bush's campaign turned this into a full-on fear campaign. They air an ad, mugshot, scary music, narration that basically scream, "If you elect Dukakis, this man is coming to your neighborhood." Now let's be real, that ad didn't say black people are criminals, but it didn't have to. That was the blueprint. And at that time, many people didn't know. Like today's social media, we can see everybody's face. Back then, a lot of people didn't know who this man was. They just thought it was just a regular, a black person. So then now they're saying, "Oh, black people are coming in to kill and rape me." Now, and then we get to our most famous person, Donald Trump. No more subtlety, no more dog whistles. This man walked in with a freaking bullhorn, man. And let's just run through the list. And this is just a small list. Just this list alone should have like destroyed anybody else. But because we lived in today's society, let's go over it. He launched his campaign by calling Mexican rapists. He called for a Muslim ban, and he did, and he got blocked. Claimed Black Lives Matter was a hate group. Defended neo-Nazis in Charlottesville by saying they were very fine people on both sides. Told 4 women of color in Congress to go back to where they came from. Said that African nations were shithole countries. He said this. Don't be saying that he didn't. He did say this. He retweeted white nationalists. Pardoned Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who ran a racial profiling police in the state of Arizona. Refused to denounce the Proud Boys on national TV and instead told them to stand back and stand by. And then came January 6th. Confederate flags waving in the Capitol, nooses hung on the lawns, and a movement fueled by the big lie that specifically attacked cities like Atlanta, Detroit, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia because black voters flipped the election. Trump isn't a glitch in the system. He is the system. He is the inevitable product of 50 years of racial rebranding. And people allowed it. And they act shocked now that he's trying to protect a rapist to forget about Jeffrey Epstein. Like, come on. He's on the top of that list, man. Anyways. So what's the GOP doing? He's banning AP African American Studies, shutting down DEI programs at universities, purging the woke books from school libraries, books about MLK, Ruby Bridges, slavery. He's firing teachers who talk about racism, passing voter suppression laws that disproportionately impact Black, Latino, and Native communities. And then they go on TV and say, "But Lincoln freed the slaves." It's exhausting. But more than that, it's dangerous. Because when they erase the past, you justify the present. And what they're doing now, it's not about protecting kids. It's about controlling history. Have you ever heard that winners write history? That's what they want. So yeah, the GOP rebranded. They gave racism a new name, a new suit, and a new smile. A ugly orange smile too. God, I feel bad for Melania. Not too bad, but still feel bad. Imagine waking up to that every day. Ugh. Ugh. Anyways, but beneath the surface, it's the same playbook. Strom Thurmond carried for 1948 is just digital now. Just modernized. Just wrapped in a flag and weaponized for Facebook, Fox News, and the CPAC stages. And if you think this ends with a slogan or a speech, you're wrong. Because this isn't about the elections. It's about education, memory, and power. Because if everybody forgets what happened in the past, then we're gonna be stuck repeating those same mistakes. And so don't let them rewrite the past, because the moment they do, they'll rewrite you out of the future.